I remember just becoming really serious one night about wanting to become a sitcom writer. So what I did was I looked for all the different kind of like minority writing programs that they have at CBS, NBC, Fox. The one that took me was CBS. So in late 2008, I used all my little college money and flew to LA and did this like right after like it was the midst of the 2008 financial crash. And it's perfect timing. Perfect.
Yeah, good time.
Couldn't have waited a year. So like I got in. They were like, well, we're not going to pay for this, that, and the third. If you show up, you show up. So I just did the program, met a lot of fascinating and like very talented people. I was the only one who was not like in film school. So there was people from like USC Film School, UCLA, and then like me, the comedian. They took me, and I felt a little of like I was definitely an outsider, but I didn't let it deter me. And I remember after the program was over, they were going to try to hook us up with gigs, and it did not go well. They were just like, these people were just like, I'm just taking this meeting because they told me to. So yeah. But I did get a working understanding of what it took to make a television show, which was cool. Like I got to,
and that's valuable.
Yeah. The probably the most valuable thing was I met the creators of How I Met Your Mother. They were cool to me. They were very kind. Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, and they weren't going to hire me because they were all full up, but I got to hang out on set and see an actual very funny show being made, so that was really cool.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Charles-McBee coming at you with another episode of How to Work in TV. On this episode, I'm joined by my good brother, Mr. Jordan Carlos. He's an amazing stand-up comedian. He's written for several shows, First Wives Club, The God's Honest Truth on Comedy Central, and he has a new sitcom coming out starring the very funny Phoebe Robinson that he's writing on, producing on, and starring in himself. It's coming out this summer on Hulu. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get all the notifications for upcoming episodes. But right now, let's check it out.
We might not see eye to eye on everything, but we both enjoy the finer things.
We may not agree on all of politics and social inquiries, but when it comes to black bouginess, we are hand in hand, my friend.
There is no daylight between us.
Hand in hand. So, the series is basically a kind of a walkthrough of people that I admire in the industry and people that I work with on how they got to where they are, because we were that people in some farm town somewhere wondering how to get into this business, and we figured it out. And so just kind of spreading that knowledge along the way. So I kind of want to start at the beginning a little bit. You are from Texas. What part of Texas?
I'm from Dallas, Texas. Dallas is, big city, relatively big, but not so big that you can just say one name. So you got to say Dallas, Texas. You can't just say Houston and people know it. So, right. So it's also kind of like the businesses that go on in Dallas it's not media. It's commercial real estate. It's energy. Strangely enough, like car sales, things like that. But real estate, it's just not. Entertainment is far away from the bright lights of Dallas. So like leaving was a very important thing to do in order to like make my career goals come true.
Yeah.
But I will say it was kind of my parents' fault because they exposed me to a lot of different comedy and a lot of different movies and things like that. But when you do that to a kid, you more or less kind of put a stamp on them. They're going to go and do stuff. And everybody I grew up with, strangely enough, that was kind of even remotely interested in comedy, they gave it a shot. They were like, I got to go, I got to leave Dallas. I got to try something else, So yeah.
That's exactly right, because it was the same way with me. I always say, and which is why one of my biggest passions is going back to my hometown and exposing, young kids who are just like me. I'm the type of person, once you expose me to something and I know it's possible, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like, once I know that it can be done, then my brain is like, that's it, I'm doing it, if that's something that I'm interested in. That's why when people bring up things like, oh, being held back by racism or being held back by classism or being held back by this or that. Yeah, I can acknowledge that those things exist, but sorry, buddy, I already know that it's possible. So like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from trying to accomplish those things.
Yeah, agreed. I think for me, it was like I went to New York when I was about 14 years old and took a tour of the Conan O'Brien studio. And I was like, for everybody else, it was just like, oh, this is cool. We appreciate this. This is fun. But I was like, nah, I got to get in there.
I need this. I need it.
Come on.
Yeah. All right, great. So you're in Dallas, and you got the bug. You've been exposed to different things. I guess, what was that first move? Because here's the thing that a lot of people have in common. They're in Dallas, they're in Toledo, they're in wherever. And it's like, what's that first step into the right direction? For you, it was leaving Dallas, correct?
Yes. But there was a preliminary step before that, which was joining an improv comedy troupe.
Okay.
I joined the improv comedy troupe. And for me, it was like I got in the 10th grade. My greatest disappointment was not getting in the 9th grade. I got in the 10th grade and did improv, and it was like I knew this is where I could really come alive and really like I could do my thing, and like I could, if I wasn't LeBron, I was definitely BJ Armstrong. It was like I could at least I could be relied upon to get laughs, and like so it was like I think I was just lucky because a lot of teenagers don't have that kind of outlet. And I didn't. It helped me really weather the storm. And when that was done, I was like, I want to do this on the college level. So I was like, while I was getting my academics straight, I knew I wanted to do that on the college level. So when I went to school, I would kind of do something for my parents, which was like I studied business in college. Mm-hmm. But then for myself, I was doing more improv comedy. And like, I just kept at it. And it was honestly, it became the thing I was known for at school. Mm-hmm. So I did improv, and then then probably about my junior or senior year, I became a little not bored with improv, but I wanted to see what else is out there, and I started doing stand-up. We had a stand-up comedy club at the college, and this is a time like at the school where some really, like John Krasinski, I did comedy with him, and he did okay. So like it was a real kind of furnace for comedians. Tracy Ellis Ross was also in my comedy group, like not way before I was there, but like it was a tradition, and it just felt like I was in a place where, okay, if I worked really hard, things could line up and I could get what I wanted. Now, to make it really happen though, I then started doing internships in New York City, which is not available to everybody. And I do recommend them though, if you have the means. I did not, but I did it anyway. I worked at Comedy Central. I was an intern at Comedy Central one summer, and I remember at the same time I had to like deliver burritos uptown from a place called Nacho Mama's.
That's like illegal now to make an intern deliver burritos. They're like, you can't make an intern work.
That was my side hustle. Now you got rules and stuff like that. That was my side hustle. I used to do a lot of things because I worked for like Amy Poehler. She had a show called The Upright Citizens Brigade, which is not only a theater, but before that, it was actually a television show on Comedy Central. So we would have to do we would paint sets and move stuff. And I was like, this is definitely like some union stuff. Like we shouldn't be doing this, and yet there we were. But that's what I wanted. So, I didn't really. I got experience in being in the mix in that. Right now, when I graduated from college, I needed a real jobby job. I couldn't really get one in the entertainment industry, so I just did advertising for about 5 or 6 years. But that kind of like, sometimes I think that if you have a job that is kind of like, I was lucky because it was actually kind of in the same general ballpark as entertainment. You had to come up, you had to pitch ideas, experience just harsh rejection, understand like that, you have to work under the gun and be funny and all this stuff and deal with a lot of pressure in a timely fashion. So I did that. It wasn't what I wanted to do with my career, and actually the people that I worked for were really cool because they understood that they have a lot of young creative talent, and maybe this isn't exactly what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So I actually do suggest that if you want to get in this business, but you maybe need to pay off some loans, you want to eat, or if you just want to have like a good kind of like, if mental health is really important to you, and you the hustle, which is something completely different, which can be destabilizing and can eat away at your mental health. If you want to put that on pause for a second and really want that kind of like structure and organization of a 9 to 5, I recommend advertising. Actually, it's good. It's almost like training wheels for the real thing. So like, and a lot of people did it over the years. Jim Gaffigan, Phil Hartman. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. Oh, Bob Newhart. But all these people were in advertising, and then they made the leap to the real deal. So I made the leap to the real deal through a showcase. Like, so they still do these today, but it was like Stand Up for Diversity on NBC.
Yep.
Stand Up for Diversity on NBC. I think there's peril and promise in those shows.
No, keep going, because I thought I had it here.
Where'd it go? There's peril and promise to these kinds of shows, because at the same time that they're supposed to showcase diversity, things like, hey, oh, the swag. Did you win it? Did you win the diversity?
No, they gave these to everybody. They were handing these out like hotcakes.
It was, that was brutal. That was a brutal process. But it was like a showcase to kind of like weed out who was palatable to these mainstream kind of like corporate media enterprises. So I got through to the final rounds and went to LA. And from that, I got an agent and a manager. It meant like standing out in the cold for hours and like trying to get in there and like give your best 2 to 3 minutes. And they were like, that person's hireable. I could deal with that. They're palatable, whatever. Right. So, but it kind of like even though it got me an agent and a manager, it did start to lay I think a bad seed, which was that the NBC, the ABC, and CBS are the right routes to go as far as these are the ones that this is the good side. This is like yes. These are the preferred routes. So fast forward a couple years, I start like, because I have an agent and a manager, I quit my job in advertising with a full $5,000 saved up. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you never have to work again.
Never had to work again. But I got really lucky, and I was eminently castable, as they say in the business. And so I immediately got like a Pepsi commercial, an AOL commercial, and a Disney commercial, all within like the first year.
Now I want to pause right there. So, in the lead up to all of this,
yes,
from even going back from Texas and coming to New York, was your main goal to eventually get into television, or was your main goal I just want to be stand up, that's it, and whatever kind of happens from that can happen? What was your kind of through line goal, or were you just taking things as they come and whatever happens? My main goal was to be funny on a TV sitcom. On a TV sitcom. That's all I ever wanted. But then also I had a second love, which was writing, and I really wanted to write for a sitcom as well. So they always competed. I never stopped wanting to do both of these things. Now, did that start back in college? Specifically, the writing and wanting to be on a sitcom, did that start back in college, or did that kind of grow as you kind of got into, you were in advertising, you were doing this and doing that? Did you finally settle on, you know what, I really want to write for a sitcom, or I really want to, when did that? It only became more palpable and possible when I got to New York. Because when I was in Rhode Island at school, it was just more like, that would be a fantasy, an awesome dream. It'd be awesome. Zoom to the moon, let's do this thing, right? Yeah. But the moment you start, you have to move closer to where the action is. Correct. You have to move closer to where the action is. And so I moved to New York, and I always thought that New York was a great place to kind of find your voice. Of course, I just didn't like Los Angeles all that much. So I didn't move there, even though I think there is a certain price I paid for not moving there, which was the speed at which I got what I wanted was a lot slower, because people didn't know who the hell I was. And like a lot of other places, Los Angeles is a local, it's
small place in
Yep.
ways with an international reach. And New York is kind of like the same way. People know you. It's not who you know, but who knows you. And so if you're known in Los Angeles, your reach is much broader. So that said, I had these two goals. Like, it was like being on a sitcom, writing for a sitcom, you know, having my own thing, doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And the showcase was the stand-up. Showcasing what I could do, showcasing my writing, showcasing who I could be on stage, showing that I had presence, things like that. That was through stand-up. So, yeah, I mean, in the interim years, there was like a big gulf between 2006 and my first like TV show that I got on, which was 2011. That's 5-6 years where I was like hustling, you know, just like trying to doggy paddling, trying to stay up in water, whether it was being in commercials, doing college gigs, you know, which was like, wow, that was crazy. Just going all over the country, doing college gigs, steadily working on my craft, trying to get better at it, because sometimes you're not left the option. Sometimes that television show, whatever you want, the opportunity will come along and you don't get it.
Exactly.
So what's left to you, you better come with it on those things and really like flex that and try to up your game on those things. So what I try to do is like up my game as far as like stand-up is concerned, go from just like having 5 minutes to 20 to 30 to an hour, things like that, you know? And I was able to do it. But it remained for me like something that was more of a tool than like my first love. It's just true. It's just what it is.
No, that's great, because two things. I always kind of say when we start to merge, and it's funny that you say that, because you may deep down actually be more of an LA comic than New York.
Probably so.
Because for a lot of LA comics, the goal is the sitcom or this, and the stand-up is the tool or the way in which they may get there. Whereas for a lot of New York comics, it's like sitcom, schmitcom, I want to be a stand-up. If something, you know, if those things lead to that, great. If not, whatever. I just want to sell out Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely. They'll hand it to me later.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's a really good point, except for I find Los Angeles to be very isolating and lonely. And, And like getting
New York is the best. I don't care what anybody says, even though I'm flying to LA literally tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man. That's a good point. That's a good point. I hadn't really thought of it like that.
So you're grinding, you're hustling, you're using stand-up as kind of a tool and a way to showcase your capabilities, which is what the other point that I was going to make, because a lot of times when doing this series and I'm talking to other stand-ups who got into this, and it's always interesting when I talk to stand-ups who found their way into television and film, as opposed to other people who work in different sectors of the industry, not necessarily the talent portion. You're using your stand-up as a way to not only showcase what you can do in front of the television, but also showcase what you can do behind the scenes, because obviously as a stand-up, you write all your own material.
Yes.
And so the writing is being showcased as well. So basically, if you have a skill, and I talked about this with Rita the other night, Rita Brent. If you have a skill, whether it be stand-up, whether it be you write your own sketches, whether it be you sing, whatever that is outside of the business, use that skill to help showcase what you can do, because there's no 1, 2, 3 blueprint on how to get in. So it's basically taking whatever that special thing about you is and using it as a way to exploit your capabilities and using it as your calling card. For you, it was stand-up.
Absolutely. It was stand-up all the way. And it got me, it got me on television. It got me credits here and there. And it kept the lights on, you know?
Yeah.
By the time, so I was on the road, and by the time I was still serious about writing. And I wanted to write for shows, so I would take like what's called general meetings, things like that with producers, and they'd always be like, "We'd love to see a sample of your work. We'd love to see a sample of your work. We'd love to see a sample." And back then, you would actually write episodes of current shows on television.
Spec scripts, right?
Spec scripts, absolutely. Now they're asking you to write shows that are completely original, right? So I would write spec scripts. I wrote one for like 30 Rock. I remember I wrote one for like 2.5 Men, like all this stuff, even Entourage. But what was, I remember bringing the element of race into it, that they were always like, well, you should write from your own experience, you know? And like what they were trying to say was, you should write black characters. And so I didn't really understand that back in the day. And so I would just write like, you know, I wanted to get into the mainstream, so I would write black characters. So long story long, what I did was I really was serious about wanting to, I remember just becoming really serious one night about wanting to become a sitcom writer. So what I did was I looked for all the different kind of like minority writing programs that they have at CBS, NBC, Fox. The one that took me was CBS. So in late 2008, I used all my little college money and flew to LA and did this like right after like it was the midst of the 2008 financial crash. It's perfect timing. Perfect.
Yeah, good time.
Couldn't have waited a year. So like I got in. They were like, well, we're not going to pay for this, that, and the third. If you show up, you show up. So I just did the program, met a lot of fascinating and like very talented people. I was the only one who was not like in film school. So there was people from like USC Film School, UCLA, and then like me, the comedian. They took me, and I felt a little of like I was definitely an outsider, but I didn't let it deter me. And I remember after the program was over, they were going to try to hook us up with gigs, and it did not go well. They were just like, these people were just like, I'm just taking this meeting because they told me to. So yeah. But I did get a working understanding of what it took to make a television show, which was cool. Like I got to,
and that's valuable.
Yeah. The probably the most valuable thing was I met the creators of How I Met Your Mother. They were cool to me. They were very kind. Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, and you know they weren't going to hire me because they were all full up, but I got to hang out on set and see an actual very funny show being made, so that was really cool.
That is extremely valuable. Not to cut you off, I just want to pinpoint that is extremely valuable, and that's something that's always worked for me, because for me, being able to, you know, I can be thrown in the ocean and I will learn how to swim. But for my own preference, I love being a fly on the wall first.
Right.
And just being able to see how the sauce is made without having the pressure of having to make the sauce. And so just being able to kind of take all that in, see what's going on, see who's who. So by the time you get into that position, you're not coming into it cold. You have somewhat of an understanding of what's going on and what role you need to play. So I think that was extremely vital. Anytime you get to just soak up game, that's a win, even if you don't get the job.
Big facts. The craziest part was we were also, like, since it was pilot season, we were asked to also just like sit in on like network tests and things like that. So I was in the way back of the room and I would see these actors come in, which I've been in that position before too. I've flown out for a test in a TV show, and it's isolating, scary. It's no, casting is just not fun, right?
Not fun at all. At all.
Not fun at all.
That's why I write my own little shit and do my own little thing, because I hate it. I hate it with a passion.
Yeah, you're coming there hat in hand, hoping for the best.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw people like, it was so helpful to see people bomb, actually.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
It humanizes the experience. You have empathy for them because you were in that position.
Yeah.
You realize that these actors that you see on your screen, these perfect people, these you know, people who are opposed to any fear or imperfection, no, they're just like you. They had to audition. They were scared. They were nervous, butterflies. They had to go boo-boo before they went into the room. Like all the anxiety, all the fear, all the stammer. I mean, it's all there. The best thing for me coming up to, one of the best things was when they finally released. I remember as a kid watching, I forget what movie it was or what television show, but when they started releasing the blooper reels at the end credits.
Oh, yes.
I never knew that those existed as a kid. So when I would watch them and I would see like, wait, they mess up their lines? Like, what do you mean? It's not just one seamless thing. Like people, they make mistakes. I don't understand. So, yeah, very humanizing and very, very vital.
I'll never forget that, you know, and I'm a forgetful person, but I'll never forget that. I was like, this is, it was definitely like burned on my brain, that experience, the lessons that it taught me, that it is an industry, that it is like a business, and that you try to shake it off and not take it too personally. So from that experience, even though I didn't get a job, I got great life experience from it and an understanding of the trade itself. So fast forward to 2011 when I actually did audition for like I had my first opportunity to really have a sitcom, and I got it. And the way I got it was I just changed up my game, which I think is really important. If you have no connections and you want something, it's going to take like a total transformation on your part. I cut out sugar from my diet, started running, and like drank green tea for that's all I drank. So I was hella focused. By the time I went in, I got the audition, I did well. Then they said come in for the callback. And I was like, you know what? I want this. And so I changed everything that was going on with me. And like I said, I'll just never forget that. Like green tea, just like I had laser focus. It was nuts, man. And
like an athlete, like you were training like an athlete.
Like an athlete, because I wanted it so bad. And so by the time that the test came around, which was like, I was in the room with like Doug Liman, who directed Go, The Bourne Identity, Swingers. It was terrifying, you know, but I felt calm enough because I had done the work and changed things about myself to put myself in that position. Now that show, that was my first gig. It was 10 episodes, and it changed everything for me. You know, it was like the most amount I'd ever been paid to ever be on television. You know, I was in a trailer. I was doing all these things. I was having scripts written for me, like memorization, like kissing scenes, and all this crazy stuff was happening one Nazi summer, and then it all went away. You know, then it all went away, which was another part of the business. You know, and then I was back out there paddling, doing my thing again. But cut to and again, you know, like the thing about the industry that people need to understand is like you can have a job, it'll go away, and nobody knows who the fuck you are. And that's just what it is, you know? You have to really break through to people to create a momentum and an understanding of who you are in the industry.
100%.
Yeah, 2013 comes around. Now, before 2013 comes around, but before I got let go, or we got canceled on MTV, I happened to agree to be on a show called Guy Code, which also helped. You know, you need say yes to everything.
Which was a huge show.
It was a huge show. There was Guy Code, there was Guy Court, there was Girl Code.
It was everything code.
Yeah, there was all the codes. So you have to, in your journey to get where you want to be, yes, you can try to be like laser focused and say no to everything else that could be a distraction. But I think it's also important to not be afraid to say yes to things that are maybe not exactly what you want, but by no means a compromise.
Right.
Sometimes you need to get the check to keep yourself in the game, because people were like, "Oh, he's in the game," and you know, that's if you can say that you're an entertainer and that you're still doing it. Look, I get it. Like Rodney Dangerfield had to sell siding and shit like that, you know. But like, Guy Code definitely saved me and kept me in the game, which is what you want to be.
That is key. Being in the game. There's so many gigs and so many, things that I've done, jobs I've taken or experience that I've had, where it wasn't necessarily the thing that I wanted to be doing ultimately, but it kept me in the game. It's like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? I've written for TV shows that had nothing to do with comedy, nothing to do with, creativity or anything. I'm working in TV, I'm writing for TV, I'm in the game. And you're still meeting people, you're still networking, you're still building a network, you're still gaining that experience, you're still building that muscle, that exposure. So definitely that is a jewel right there, is staying in the game is key.
And because you get to meet certain people, you know. I remember from Guy Code, I met Charlemagne, you know, and from Guy Code, I've met people like Chris Stefano and Andrew Schultz, who've become like people that I've known, and like they're like, if I want to work with them or they want to work with me, it's a possibility. And in fact, with Charlemagne, I mean, that came true, you know, like that happened. Like you can almost, when you say no to things, that most definitely won't happen. But if you say yes to things, it opens up possibilities. That's what I mean.
Yes, I think you have to have a discernment and a distinction between saying no to something because it truly is a distraction or it truly is taking you off of your path, and a distinction between that and between saying no to something because you're scared.
Yes.
Or because it's out of your realm of expertise, or if it's something new. Being able to decipher that, because there's been many a times where I was like, no, I'm not doing that because it's not what I really want. It's like, no, you're just afraid. It's just it's out of your comfort zone, and you're afraid to do it. That's why you're saying no. So yeah, absolutely, staying open and being able to pivot and being able to say yes to things because if it scares you, good. But also because you just don't know where it could lead to. And so many times I've done things where a year later, not even like soon, but 2 years later, 3 years later, something I did that was so like whatever, just a whatever gig led to something major. And yeah, those things happen all the time.
And bear in mind, and this is still somebody, I don't have any connections in like natural born connections in the entertainment industry. Yeah. This is all hustle. And one more thing that you should know is that one more reason to say yes to some things is to keep your agent paid. Because when you keep your agent paid, wow, okay, well, they've got money coming in, your call gets answered a lot faster than if you're not, you know? And one thing my agents have always said about me is like, you know what, Jordan, you always work, you're always working, you're always doing something. Which means that I'm becoming a bigger, I wasn't always a big earner for them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still not the biggest earner for them, but I was always paying them, right? I mean, I have like my ex-agent, I had to quit an agency to move on to another agency, which is another story. But I remember like this guy has sat down with me. He's an agent he's Zoe Kravitz's agent. But it was really important that he have like a drink with me not too long ago. And it was literally, I was like, are Zoe's needs being attended to right now?
Yeah.
But he just wanted to tell me that he appreciates my hustle, because that's really what it's about, is like making sure that even though some people aren't talking to you, make sure they're talking about you, you know, and that you're always coming up in conversation that you do get, you know, mentioned, and eventually you will get these opportunities. Now, Guy Code went from like maybe 2012 to about 2014. That was my participation in it. And then I got the opportunity, because I was working, remember, to be on the Nightly Show. And to get that gig, what I did was I stalked Rory Albanese.
And just to be clear, to be on the Nightly Show meant what? Your role was what on the Nightly Show?
It was going to be as writer, but I moved on. I went from writer to writer-actor. And so, I wanted to write for the Nightly Show. I wanted that. I was like, okay, I've tried out. I've sent packets to The Daily Show. I've sent packets to John Oliver. I've sent packets to Stephen Colbert. I am blue in the face from packets. I cannot break through. I'm going to try my hand at black, you know, like with a person of color, and maybe it'll happen. Now, remember, I kept saying that I wanted to break through in the mainstream.
Right.
You know? And I was like, maybe I'll give Larry Wilmore a try. So I didn't know Larry Wilmore, and Larry Wilmore didn't know me, and I couldn't get a meeting with Larry Wilmore. But I knew this guy, Rory Albanese, from reading the trades every day, which got to do that. Reading the trades in Deadline Hollywood, I knew that this guy was going to do a panel discussion with Norman Lear, which is amazing.
Who's
icon about environmentalism, right? So I was like, sure. So
that's showbiz. Let's do it.
I'm like, all right, cool. So I just show up, I'm the only black person there, basically. And I'm like, stupid, come with some questions. So while they're talking, I'm just writing questions. And when it's Q&A time, I ask like 3 questions. I get Rory's attention. Yes, right? After I come up to him like, hi, I hear, you, The Nightly Show. He's like, yeah. I'm really interested in being a writer there. He's like, and before I can say like, can I send you a packet? He's like, just come to my office tomorrow and let's hang out. What? Wow. So I go to 345 Broadway the next day. I'm so nervous. I go up there. I don't get 2 words out. I didn't know that Rory Albanese could talk. He can talk. He talks for an hour and a half, right? And so he was like, you're great. And I was like, I guess.
I didn't say anything.
Right? So then he's like.
Another gem I've learned, never miss an opportunity to shut up. Never pass up an opportunity to shut the hell up.
Too true. Too true.
Just let it fly. Go ahead. So he's
after that, he's like, you got to meet Larry. So I meet Larry, and then they just talk for an hour and a half. And then but Larry's a smart guy. And at the end, he's like, you didn't do a lot of talking in this. And I was like, no. And he's like, I tell you what. Usually I want to see a packet, but I know that you're a comic. So why don't I'm having like an open call, and I don't even know if you okay. So it was an open call at like the Stand, like the next night. So they want to do a showcase of comedians for the show. So
this just happened to be, you just happen to be timing wise.
Yeah.
You just happen to go to this panel discussion, which he just happened to say, hey, come tomorrow and let's hang out, which just happened to be the day before. Or no, then he says, meet Larry, which just happened to be the day before he's happened to have this showcase at the Stand.
And notice, none of my agents or managers hooked this up. It was all me. But,
right.
Sit around. Go lean into it and get what you want. So I do the showcase. It goes well, and I get the job. And then from 2014 to 2016, I'm working on that show. Of course, we got canceled. That's what it is. But then that really gave me a chance, 2016, to say, like, okay, so I've got a couple things under my belt now. And now I really want to go for it when it comes to, like, sitcoms and things like that. Because I've got something that was on, like, Comedy Central every night, what have you. The world didn't feel the same way. So it was back to hustle.
But that's such a key thing. I don't want to skip over that because there's so many moments where you get the thing, you're riding high, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and then it's back to hustle. It's just the way the game goes. It's just the way it is in freelance in general, but particularly in show business. It's like you're working, you're doing your thing, you're high-fiving. I just talked to Julia Young. And in her interview, she was talking about how she was doing Wild 'N Out. And then they went on tour. They do the tour. Yeah. They were at the Barclays, sold out the Barclays, and she's on stage at the Barclays. And like, and people she know are in the audience. What the hell's going on? And then she took the subway home.
Not even an Uber?
That's the game.
Wow.
That's the game.
Yeah, that is the game. That is the game for sure. Big facts. Truth well told. Yeah, man. And so I tread water, and I don't even know, by this time, like my children, I've got 2 kids at this point, and I need to put some food on the table. So I go into like grind mode, and I happen to get, again, Craig Thomas and Carter Bays. They were about to hire me for like a writing position. I went in for a general meeting with them, which is just like a hello. And I told them that, long time ago, that we had met, and they gave me a tour for How I Met Your Mother, and they were like, oh, cool. And Chris DiStefano was having this show that they were going to make on Amazon, and like they were going to hire me as a writer, but the whole thing fell through. That's right. Amazon said no to the guys from How I Met Your Mother. They're like, no, it's a hard pass.
It's all right.
Maybe next time. So it happened, but they were really nice and would always have these like, little get-togethers at a bar, bars around the city. And at one event, I met a lady from Pretty Matches, and Pretty Matches is Sarah Jessica Parker's company. So like, now think about this. This is all from like 2009. Went there, then 2016, 2017. You know, like meet back up with the guys Craig and Carter. Then I have my general with the lady from Pretty Matches. They need a black writer for Divorce, right? So I was like, well, I was a little skeptical about not being on a black show because I'd had such a wonderful experience on the nightly show. So I was a little cautious about it, but I did it anyway. And you know what? From that, it was like I got the gig. They made me a story editor. It was the most money I'd ever been paid to write, you know, and it was a great summer. And then that kind of like, while I was, got to keep hustling. So while that was winding down, and Tracy Oliver, who wrote Girls Trip, I was like, I found her on Twitter and was like, hey, I know that you're probably in the city right now making First Wives Club, and I was just wondering if I could ever get a coffee to pick your brain. Don't do that to people. But it actually worked.
It worked this time.
It worked this time. Because I said, would you like to get some sweet chick with me? So it was fried chicken and stuff. She was like, all right, sure. So we go to Sweet Chick, and she's not in a good mood. And I was like, I internalized everything. I was like, it's me. I suck. I'm not professional. And she's just like, I'm in a state because we're trying to figure out some jokes in this one episode. It's not working. And I was like, I'd be happy to look at the script. Right? So always create opportunity for yourself. Always be of help, even if it's not even for money, right? It can be for opportunity. So she sends me the script. I punch it up. She's like, this is amazing. So I was like, oh, thank you so much, right? It ends up, like the jokes that I write end up in the actual show. Year goes by. I'm still hustling, still trying to get on to shows, still trying to write. But I know that she's going to have like a writer's room for season 2. So I throw my hat in the ring. And she's like, we may, I like the writers that I had last season, so we'll see what's up. So I was like, damn. So I try again. I'm like, if anything changes, please let me know. And then she writes back like, I already told you.
All right.
Like, oh, snap. Okay, sorry. Whatever. And so I was like, let this go. Just keep hustling. But 2019 is turning into 2020, folks. And in January of 2020, she calls me up. She's like, can you be like in the writer's room for First Wives Club season 2 Monday? I said, hell yes, I can. Because I ain't got no job. I'm trying to make it.
I got shit to do.
Yeah, my knees are tired from tap dancing. So basically, what happens is she offers me. Now, when I was at Divorce, I was the executive story editor, which is it's right before you get to producer. She offers me the lowest rung. She offers me staff writer position. My agents slip out. They're like, you can't take this job, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And in fact, they turn her down. Right as COVID's around the corner and everything's about to shut down. So I Lazarus the whole thing, and I just call her up and I say, look, Tracy, fuck all that. I'll be there Monday. Whatever you want to pay me, I'll take it. She's like, great. So I go in, and my agents at this point want to give up on me. They're
I was about to ask you, like, your agents had to have been like plotting your assassination at this point, because that's a huge, like, that's a no to like just to go on your own and go, I'll take whatever you give me, and the other person's like, sure. Your agents are like, are you out of your mind?
Yes, but you know what? I didn't give a fuck. I was like, you have to keep hustling. You got to pay for these diapers out here. So I took the job. The job turned out to be 22 weeks of good pay. And it also, from that, in the middle of just when everything shut down. So I was still working as everything shut down. My agents and managers could no longer work, but I was still working and sending right? Then in the middle of all this, I pitch a character, Curtis, who's like an assistant to Jill Scott. They're like, you should play him. So now I've been cast. I get 10 episodes of that show, and by the time 2020 rolls around, I'm only available to work for The God's Honest Truth on May 24th, 2021. So from the grind of 2019, I got all the way to us working together. And I won't stop working until July 2022. That's my next available moment.
So from what I'm learning from this is, one, your goal in the first place was to be a writer on a sitcom.
Yes.
However, when different opportunities came up for writing in other genres, The Nightly Show, etc., you ran to those as well because they were still great opportunities. And even though it wasn't the end-all, be-all as far as what your main goal was, you still recognized it as a great chance to showcase your work and get some extra skills in. So you do that. You take a chance and you follow your instinct, your gut instinct, and you reach out to these different people. You go against the grain and you accept the job because it was something that you really wanted to do and that could lead to a great opportunity, which I'm always a big advocate for. So I'm actually on your side with that. It's like I will do something for free if I feel like it's a great benefit to me in the long run, if it's going to help expedite what my goals are. Even though other people might go, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, opportunity is a way bigger payment than the bag sometimes.
Yeah.
If you know how to flip it. If you know how to flip it and if you know how to work it. It's chess, it's not checkers. Yeah. And so you do all of that and you get to, the point where obviously we get to work together, and by the time we had already worked together prior, but we're working together on God's Honest Truth.
Yes.
And by the time you get to God's Honest Truth, another late night show, you already come in with that experience from working on the nightly show and working on these other things. So you're able to bring all of that expertise and all of that experience to the table.
I forgot, man. I forgot the God's Honest Truth. But that was in our first rodeo, man. We worked together, and it was like, after the nightly show, I did that, which was an insane time to be in
Uncommon Sense Live, Uncommon Sense Live. Right when Trump got elected. It was insane. Absolutely insane. Great. Fun times.
Oh, sure.
But no, to that point though, I will go back to that just for a second, and I just got a couple more questions.
Oh, please, man.
That was 2016. Trump is just getting in office. The world is exploding, and we're doing a live political talk show. And following the news exactly. You had said that going up to that point, you were, submitted to the Daily Show, submitted to John Oliver, submitted to this. And then you're actually in a position with this show to really do the things that you were submitting for with those other shows. I know it was, for me, a great opportunity because it was something that I was interested in as far as following politics and following the daily, what was going on. I guess, what was that like for you? Obviously, the world exploding aside, but what was that like for you to have a show, to be working on a show during that 2016, during that time of just pure craziness going on in the world, and being able to write about it? Was it too draining? Was it inspiring? Was it?
It was both. It was draining and inspiring, right? And it was a way to negotiate what was happening around me, because what was happening around me was the world was vastly changing and the era was changing, right? So it was like dark days were kind of like settling on us, but we had to kind of figure out what was going on. We had to figure out what an authoritarian was like. We had to kind of like make sure that we would have a take or an opinion about what was to come, and to understand that elections did have consequences, and that there was that great push, like when it came to like crackdowns, as far as like immigration into the country, even like the first few days, it was all about the inauguration and lying about the crowd size and the numbers, and just honestly settling into the fact that this unpopular man was our president, And so, like, I just remember that job helped me if I hadn't had that job, I don't think I would have. I think I would have probably maybe gone off the deep end a little bit. You know, I would have been yelling at my TV a lot more.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It definitely for me it definitely forced me to to one, have an opinion and know why, because we had to research constantly researching. It wasn't just going off a gut feeling and yelling, like you said, yelling at the TV. No, we had to know who the major players were, and if we had a take, we had to know why that take was. We really had to be responsible in some of the things in all the things that we were saying in the takes that we were making. Yeah. And so it allowed me to really make sense of everything that was going on, as opposed to only just going through the emotions and going off of headlines and things of that nature, but to actually be an authority on it and to actually have a voice to help other people kind of make sense of what was happening, and still be able to use comedy to do it, was for me very rewarding and very fulfilling, despite whether people what people may have thought about what was going on politically. And it was we had great fights and debates in the writers' room, so that was always fun.
Oh, absolutely. The back and forth between Charles-McBee and Jordan Carlos never stopped.
Never stopped.
But I mean, I think it almost prepared us really for like the God's honest truth, and to say that okay, you have to start somewhere. And Shard already had the show before, but it felt like working in a space where it's like, okay, this is going to be like two people of color, this is going to be the black people, and this is going to be us figuring it out, not just like us taking whatever mainstream media tells us at face value, but
right.
us figuring out like where we stand in this. And I really love that, and I take it with me into my writing now. Everything is like, every sitcom is really subversive and political, honestly, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It just takes headline kind of politics and makes a kitchen table. And that's really what it is. And kind of like trying to package that and make it into like a down to earth, realistic version is what the work is. So when we break stories like what we're going to say this week, there's an act 1, act 2, act 3, and that's the same is true in a sitcom. So I've taken it with me all the way through. That's why I've always been struck by people that like they just stay in late night or they can only do sitcoms. I'm like, it's the same shit. It's just like you're going kitchen table to broadcast, marquee stuff. That's it. That's all.
Which brings me up to present time. Mm-hmm. You've had all these experiences, in late night and writing for divorce and doing all these different things. And it brings me up to your current gig, which is writing, producing, and starring in Phoebe Robinson's new show that's coming out soon. What's the official title of the show? Can you?
It's called Everything's Trash. It's called Everything's Trash, and
Everything's Trash.
Everything's Trash, based on the book. It's going to be on Freeform and Hulu. So excited about that.
So real quick, how did that kind of come about? I mean, you've been on this journey, you've been hustling this whole time, and now you get to a point where this is the thing. You said it from back in Texas, sitcom, right? Writing, and now not only is not one or the other. You're not just, I'm writing on a sitcom or I'm on a sitcom. You're doing both.
Yeah.
So the whole thing kind of comes together at this moment. So
now I can retire.
How did that manifest itself?
Good question. So basically, I was working on First Wives Club, right? And I always think that you're gonna get hired if you already got a job. You're gonna get hired if you already got a job.
Let's unpack this.
I'm serious, man. It's not a joke. Like I have another show on AMC, and the way and this. Remember this, folks. This is some good problems to have. If you've got a gig already, let's say you're maybe like you got a couple days on a show or something like that, but there's also another gig that they want you to do. Do your audition, because you can do it from Zoom anyway. Do it from your trailer. And they'll this nigga
Light flex. I like that. I like the way you think, Jordan Carlos.
Right.
I like the way you think.
People are so, we're so into optics and visuals that
Yes.
we're like, of course, this person, they're so busy that they would even find time.
Can I put a pin in that? I don't want. I hate when interviewers interrupt the person, but I don't want to forget this, because as I was bringing people and hiring people for our writers' room for God's Honest Truth, I'm not going to say his name. Well, I actually said. So Alex English, he was on the short list to be on it. Who's an amazing comic, and he's writing for SNL right now. So things worked out for him great. But he was on the short list for consideration, and I was doing an interview with him. And I was interviewing him as he was on set for Sam Jay's show. And I'm not going to lie, even though I already liked Alex, I already, but just seeing, it really made it like more official for me. I was like, oh yeah, he's a big deal. We need to get this guy. Like it does. You're not lying. It does work. So yes. So go ahead. Sorry.
It's a platter that you want to be served on. So it's like, I was in the middle of shooting something else, and then I went in for my first audition there, and then which they liked. Then the second audition, I was actually working on a short film, and again I had a trailer, so they were like, dope. And then finally, it was like. These things kept happening like that, and then I was randomly at Electric Ladyland Studios. I had to do a podcast recording there, and it's just a really cool place. And so that was the test. I was at Electric Ladyland Studios, and they were like more interested in Electric Ladyland Studios.
Yeah, like where are you? What's happening?
Where are you? What's going on? You're always someplace crazy.
Yeah.
So then that got me the gig. Really, I think that just the kind of there is something about hustle, there's something about optics, and there's you can't understate mystique. So if there's something about the person, then they're down, they're down. So I think it goes a long way. And when that happened, I was like, okay, well, this is too good. I've got a tiger by the tail. We did the pilot. It was fantastic. Got to work with the amazing, George Wallace and comedy legend, and Jackie Harris as well. She played my mom. It was amazing, right? So we did that in March. Bang. Excuse me. It was March to May. So bang, we did that, and then we learned in about August that we were going to get picked up for a first season. So what I did was I was like, I want to write for this show too. So I threw my hat in the ring for writing, and had the interview. It was also weird because it's almost like now it's a little incestuous because you're like, all right, well, we know you as an actor, and now
you're already acting on the show. You want to what?
Right.
What are you talking about?
What more does this dude want? So I was like, I want it all, right? So I threw my hat in. They liked what I'd written, and by this time I'd actually written like my 10th spec script, sitcom pilot script. So it was like that. I had that write those because it's the 10th one that they take, And so by that point, I was ready, and I just felt ready. And when they offered it to me, offered me the role of producer, I felt ready for it all. So I've been in the room ever since. It's been fantastic. When I was working on God's Honest, I went ahead and hired Olivia. Amazing on camera. I'm sorry, Olivia. But I started to really, really do things, make moves, take myself seriously, and invest in myself to try to take myself to the next level. And that's why I am where I am today, and why I think I'm in a good position right now as far as the kind of structure and architecture you have to do to put yourself in this place,
Amazing.
Yeah.
2 small questions.
Please.
One, if there is a fuck up, if you will, that you could go back and warn either your younger self or warn someone else about, or not. It could be yours or something that you witnessed from somebody else, where you're just like, man, learn from this mistake right here. Is there one that stands out for you?
Of course. Don't talk shit about Stephen Colbert. And then also, no matter how right you might be on a subject, messaging is everything. So, like, don't do that. Just take an opportunity, and if it doesn't work out, if the outcome isn't exactly what you wanted, you have to learn to take it in stride and not take it out on others. And I would like get in a time machine and just put some duct tape around my mouth for at least a month.
Never pass up a great opportunity to shut the hell up.
So
never pass it up. If you, is a great. This executive once said something. I'm gonna flub it a little bit, but she was just like, never say what you can text. Never text what you can nod to. It's just.
That's a great line.
You know.
That's a great line.
You know.
Man.
All right. Last thing. If there was one holy shit moment, and I know you've had many, you've had a great career and you continue to have a great career, but if there's one moment where you had to stop time and go, I cannot believe that this is my life right now. Holy shit. This is
what was
brain exploding.
Yeah.
What's that moment?
I think it was when, I mean, I'm going to bring Olivia into this. Like, I think it's important when you do actually get to a certain point that you have to take yourself serious enough and prize yourself enough to actually bring someone on, because you can't do it all by yourself. And when she got me the first smoothie I asked her for, she went away and got it, and I almost cried. That's a true story.
You know what? I believe you.
Yeah.
Because I kind of know what that is. I haven't hired. I'm on the verge of hiring an personal assistant, right? Because I'm realizing how vital they are.
Yeah.
And especially when you get to that point where you're like, I can't do this all by myself. I cannot do it. And so that moment when you realize that not only should I do it, not only am I going to do it, but I'm in a position where I can afford to do it. That's a nice little moment. That's a nice little, like, you know what? That's right. Yes.
They can't.
I am here now.
Yeah. I have arrived.
Yeah.
I have arrived, friends. I mean, things, it's just silly, man. Silly.
That's funny. No, it's those things that count. It's those things that definitely count. Hey, my friend, I could talk to you all day. I know you're a very busy man, but I appreciate you taking the time out, man.
Of course, man. See McBee anytime. I'm actually supposed to go into my Zoom right now. But I love you, brother, and I appreciate you asking me to do this and thinking that I even have something worthy to speak on. But, like, I mean...
Well, so many people said no, so I just went down the list, and come on now. You do. You know how this goes.
I know how the game goes.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. You're the best.
Love you, man. Talk to you later, bro.
Oh, do me a favor. Even if you go into the Zoom, just keep this. I'm gonna stop this real quick.
Okay.
But kind of keep this browser open if you don't mind.
Done.
Just so it has